Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and get started. Again, this is Roy Zwahlen, Director of Technology Transfer here at the Biotechnology Industry Organization. We're pleased to have this panel here today. Let me start by introducing Kanade at Stanford Spark and hand it over to him to kick us off.
Thank you, Roy. It's my pleasure today to introduce the Emerging Trends in Academic Industry Collaboration webinar. My name is Kanade Das. I'm the Associate Director of Partnering and Alliance Management at Stanford Spark. The Spark program was started 9 years ago by Daria Moshly-Rosen, who is on the faculty here. She's also the founder of Kai and Aldea Pharmaceuticals. So when she started those companies, she's learned a lot about how drugs were developed and discovered and wanted to make that second nature within the academic environment. To that end, the Spark program is an accelerator on campus where we fund a small amount of projects every year, and our goal is to get them into the clinic, licensed, or funded as proper startups. We've been around for 9 years, and we've been about 60% successful with the Stanford projects. And one of the things that we've done over the years is export our template to other universities internationally throughout the world. And we have about 12 partner universities that do similar things to what we do under the Spark umbrella. One of the things I'm really excited to talk about this morning is that we will have a partnering showcase for those projects that are emerging from the Spark umbrella of universities and at the BioInvestor Forum in October in San Francisco in partnership with the Bio organization. We'll have a short keynote from the founder of the Spark program, then 10 to 12 projects that will pitch to investors, and a reception afterwards the night before the BioInvestor Forum. If you are planning to go to BIF, the BioInvestor Forum, it will be free to academics and investors. If you're registered for BIF, it will be free for you to attend. And it's a great opportunity to take a look at some of the exciting things that are happening in academics in the early stage. And all of the presenters will be involved in the partnering there as well. So it's a great collaboration between academics and the Bio organization, hopefully to engage industry. And we hope to see you there in October. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Tucker, who is the Executive Director of Innovation at the University of California Office of the President.
Hi, Bill, are you there?
Sorry.
This is Roy.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, this is Bill Tucker. I'm Executive Director of Innovation Alliances and Services at the University of California Office of the President, and I'm actually Interim Vice President for Research and Graduate Studies at the same time. So it's a pleasure to have you here today and want to touch on sort of the challenges of translational research and technology commercialization and at universities and the changing ways in which universities are interacting with our friends in the private sector to bring inventions to the market and drugs to the people. So next slide, please, Roy. So I think the challenges we're facing in universities in technology transfer is that the paradigm that many of us worked under over many years has changed. Sort of I've described it the disclosed patent license model, and it's not working the way we used to. For many years, faculty members would disclose inventions. We would decide if it was patentable, and then we would try to strike up a deal with somebody who would take that idea and then flesh out it from the research side and move that invention into the clinic. Really, it's not working that way anymore, and industry doesn't tend to have the research capabilities that it once did to validate early stage university research. And so we're having to need to advance those technologies beyond that point where traditional agency funding takes us. So we're really looking at new ways of operating at universities, looking at how do we create proof of commercial potential? What sorts of research do we need to support at our institutions that make these technologies investable by angels or venture capital or commercial, the venture arms of pharmaceutical companies? And the challenge that most of us face is that the funding for this sort of proof of concept work is not widely available. It's not supported by the government. It's hard to get philanthropic support for that. So most of us are really looking at this as the gap that we're trying to fill in the early stage translational research. Next slide. Next slide, Roy. So there's some approaches we're exploring, and the panel today will continue to look at this from the context of their own experiences. But one of the things we know at the University of California in general, that startups are an integral part of our commercialization strategy. We recognize that startups have individuals with the passion, both as entrepreneurs and as technologists, to take those ideas and move them closer to the market. But to do that, we've got to do a number of things. We've got to enlist or certainly educate early stage entrepreneurs. There's a lot of passion within faculty, graduate students, postdocs to take ideas forward, but those individuals generally don't have the sorts of experience that would work well for them in the commercial environment. So we need to educate them about what it takes to be an early stage entrepreneur. The other thing that we're really trying to do is provide some physical environments for new company creation. So incubators and accelerators are an area that many of us in the university community are exploring as ways to help nurture these earliest stages of companies. And then lastly, how could we, can we invest in pre-seed or seed stage businesses? And that's a challenge that the University of California is approaching. We're setting up now to create an arm's length venture unit called UC Ventures, which will be part of our overall investment strategy, that will be putting up to $250 million into early stage and mid stage investment in companies that have some nexus to the university. We're also looking at new models of industry collaboration. The relationship is not a throw it over the wall anymore. We're looking for ways to be much more aligned and integrated with industry. We need them to be able to validate the commercial opportunity because of their experience. We need some technical support and advice on sort of preclinical strategies because, again, this is an area where there isn't a lot of expertise in most universities, and so we are really looking to collaborate with our industry partners. And then, as I said, there's even opportunities for co-investment through the venture arms of some of the larger companies, whether that's in the life sciences or in agriculture or in industrial biotechnology. So that's sort of the approaches we're taking. The panel today will, as I said, explore that. So let me introduce them. The next slide, Roy. So we have three panelists, and DiSante from Michigan State University, and she's going to give us a perspective on the ag and the med-vet sector, the vet-med sector, sorry, from their perspective as a large public land-grant university. We have Cathy Tralau-Stewart from UCSF, who's part of UC BRAID, and she'll tell you a little bit about that and how we at the University of California, with our 6 medical schools and 5 healthcare delivery med centers, are looking at approaching translational research. And lastly, we have Whalen from Horizon Pharma, who's going to give a perspective from the specialty biotech sector on how they work with academic collaboration. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Anne, and she can tell us a little bit about Michigan State's perspective on this.
Thank you, Bill. This is Anne DiSante. I'm the Associate Director at MSU Technologies at Michigan State University. Next slide, please. So a little bit of a background about MSU. We were the prototype land-grant university in the 1800s for about 69 land-grant institutions under the Morrill Act. We have about a little over 19,000 acres throughout Michigan for ag and natural resource research and education. In 2013-2014, $528 million in research funding. A couple of highlights of that, along with our sister institution of University of Wisconsin Madison, we have a $125 million US DOE grant for the Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center. We're the home for FRIB, which is the Facility for Rare Isotope Beam, a $730 million investment from the DOE. And our Ag Bio Research, which in 2013-2014 funded $97 million in research. They fund 300 scientists on campus and off campus to do ag bio research. MSU is the only U.S. university with 3 on-campus medical schools: allopathic, which graduates MDs, osteopathic DOs, and veterinarians DVMs. Our student population in the fall of 2014 topped 50,000 students. Next slide, please. So MSU is developing an innovation ecosystem that began in 2011 when we established the MSU Innovation Center, which integrates innovation, tech transfer, startup formation and support, and partnership with business and communities. And there are 3 prongs to the Innovation Center. The first is MSU Technologies, my office, traditional technology transfer, but now becoming more of a technology advancement office. We manage about 150 invention disclosures per year with our licenses and options on the rise. Business Connect is the front door for industry into MSU. It assists our industrial partners with research partnerships and identifying available MSU resources that business can access. Spartan Innovations is a separate entity of the MSU Foundation. It creates sustainable startup ventures from MSU Inventions, which is through a license from MSU Technologies, but also provides support to student entrepreneurs. We have a place here on the floor with us known as the Hatch, where student companies can come in and access support, teleconferencing opportunities, free coffee. So anything that we can do to help student entrepreneurs. And these technologies, these companies are not MSU owned, they are student owned. Right now, MSU is embarking on a plan to weave entrepreneurship through all its educational offerings and research activities. Right now, we're currently recruiting key individuals for the positions within the university and keeping our fingers crossed that we will be a leader in doing that. Just a couple of notes on some of our accomplishments in 2013-2014. We had a 93% increase in licenses and options. Our commercial sponsored program funding raised 250% from 2012 through 2014. And in the Hatch, in 2013, we had 156 teams of students who were assisted in that facility, and that was up from 14 teams in 2012. Next slide, please. So talking a little bit about our ag and vet med technologies here. So MSU on the ag side, we lead in research in plant science, bioenergy, and bio-based chemicals. The technologies that are developed and disclosed to our office range from plant varieties, trait genes, biomass processing, and bioreactors. And for anybody on the webinar who's from academia, you know, you never know what's going to walk in the door at the next, what next that email is going to bring. So some of the challenges we face in transferring those technologies is really timing is everything. And timing, especially when you're in the ag side, I mean, you have to look at planting seasons and gathering your data and being able to show that even for a technology that we have that is a water system to help conserve water, you know, in Michigan, we have to be very conscious of when we're going to actually be able to gather that data. Regulatory, we just really don't know where the regulations and the winds will be blowing when a technology is ready to hit the market, certainly as that relates to GMOs, for example. Economy and financial biofuels, while we have a lot of focus in biofuels, the cost of oil will really impact the viability of those technologies. And as we all know, when we make investments in new technologies, we're doing that without really, you know, certainly years in advance to when that technology would be ready to move. And, you know, who knows where they're in the biofuel space where the cost of oil will be. Manufacturing processes, we have several that are bioprocessing to create high-value products at the end. Just being able to figure out enough about the background in how those technologies, how those products are currently manufactured to really be able to identify why our process is now faster, cheaper, or better. In the veterinary technologies, we have been teaching vet science courses since 1855. We have human technologies that have application to vet, so I'm not, in my challenge, I'm not thinking about that. But when we look at, with all of our human, the 2 human medical schools that we have, we always think about the application of those technologies to the vet industry. The technologies that we do get from our vet school range from practice models, diagnostics, vaccines, devices, surgical instruments, and we actually do license quite a bit of copyrighted material. We have a very broad copyright policy. The challenges, in addition to a variation of what I discussed in the agricultural technologies, one of the challenges that we face specifically at MSU in the vet side is a cultural challenge. Traditionally, our vet school has focused on clinically based work, and understanding the process from going from bench to the quote-unquote patient is not really as understood as or as embraced by the vet school as we would like. So that's actually one of the challenges that within MSUT we are facing right now. And I'll talk a little bit later about addressing that challenge. Next slide, please. So here are some of the resources that we have at MSU for addressing these challenges, and these are just 3 examples. As Bill mentioned, tech transfer offices are really thinking more about advancing technologies now, and these 3 examples are ways that we can do this. The first, the TSGTD program, it stands for Targeted Support Grants for Technology Development, and try saying that fast several times. That is a 100% funded MSU program. It began in 2010. It will fund, it's all internal. We don't go outside the university for funding for it. As I said, solely MSU funded. We will fund 4 categories of programs or of projects: commercialization activities, technical goals, will enhance commercial viability, and with a partner in a co-investment, whether it's cash or in kind, we'll do some high merit programs and projects. This is an internal anonymous review. It is managed through the VP for Research office. Every project that we submit must have a commercial assessment, must have an invention disclosure, and must have some intellectual property available that we are enhancing. We've done 51 grants to date. About a third of those have been in the ag and vet side, and we have yielded outcomes of additional dollars into the technology, licenses and options, and also reasons to stop investing in a program. The partnership funding is the MTRAC program. This was a partnership with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, modeled on the Coulter translational programs. There are several across the state. Ours focuses on advancing biotech and bioprocessing technologies, again, to create products and materials from agricultural-based feedstocks. It's about a $2.5 million three-year program. The proposals are vetted by an oversight committee of venture capitalists, business leaders from the ag business, academic experts, entrepreneurs, and senior MSU leaders. It's highly competitive, and the outcomes that we expect are a transfer via licensing to a startup or an established company. From our first round of funding, which was in 2014, early 2014, we actually have our first outcome under negotiation. Third-party funding is the Michigan Pre-Seed 2.0 University Commercialization Fund. This is funded solely by the Michigan Strategic Fund. It's an independent early-stage investor. It invests in technologies that have spin-out potential, $50,000 max. Any technology that's spun out of the university has to be under option only, not a license. And we have one MSU startup that has received funding from the UCSF. You know, we have an advantage in that MSU is capable and willing to invest, and we do see these programs to, in addition to helping us moving the technologies forward, it also helps us to manage the expectations of faculty and other administrators. Next slide, please. So thinking about some of these activities that we have, the roles that our bio-industrial contacts can take in helping us, you know, I don't know how to say more feedback, and more feedback. You know, our industrial contacts are our voices of reason versus us academic bureaucrats like myself sitting in offices. The feedback from industry is so important for us to share with our faculty. Gives us a reality check. Additionally, you can provide feedback working with us on these various oversight committees. Engaging our faculty is important, and certainly when I mentioned the issue on the culture change, I think that industrial contacts engaging faculty will help change culture in the areas where you need that. It will help support and give feedback to, I think, administrators in various departments that, you know, working with industry is important and critical to the you know, advancing the university too. Sharing your assumptions and thoughts on the future. So a couple years ago when I was at Bio, I went to the ag track because prior to working at Michigan State, I had not worked at a university that had as much ag research as we do here. And having, listening to industry talk about where you think your industry is going was really important to me, because I could bring that back and look as I'm making decisions and supporting our tech managers to know really where you think you need help. Keep us on your radar screen and your key opinion leaders that are here at the university. Hope that everybody has at least the top 10 people that they would like to follow, both on publications as well as even awarded grants. And the final one that's not on there is to be patient as universities evolve and we take entrepreneurship and embrace it, and it takes hold within our universities. So thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And before I turn it over to Cathy, I just want to point out logistically, if you have questions, there's a question box on the toolbar that's on your screen. So if you would type your questions in there, my colleagues at Bio will be accumulating those, and then we'll use them at the Q&A session at the end of the three panelists. So now, Cathy, tell us a little bit about what's happening at UCSF and UC in general.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, my name is Cathy Tralau-Stewart. I'm head of the therapeutics track of the Catalyst Translational Awards at UCSF. So the University of California system is pretty large. We have 10 campuses, including 5 medical campuses and 3 national labs. Last year we brought in $1.8 billion in combined NIH funding, which is pretty impressive. Of the 8 schools in California in the top 50 NIH funded schools, 6 of those are within the University of California system. The system overall has a very large patient access, with reaching over 12 million people in California. So I'm not going to try to review the many schemes of the University of California in the translational space. As Bill said, I'm going to focus on the UC BRAID initiatives and particularly on the early drug discovery space. So UC BRAID was set up to bring the 5 medical campuses together and help them to work efficiently. So we have a number of collaborations within UC BRAID, and by the way, BRAID stands for Biomedical Research Acceleration, Integration and Development. So the UC REX initiative brings together clinical aggregate data, allows people across the sites, researchers across the sites, access to 13.6 million records, which enables their research and trials going forward. The regulatory group are looking to reduce hurdles to ensure that regulatory approval happens easily across the sites too. BRAID has a number of consortium approaches also, which are working across the sites, one on child health medicine, one called the University of California Center for Accelerated Innovation, which is an NHLBI funded scheme to accelerate and support research to product work. And then there's the early discovery group, which we call D4. D4, lovely acronyms I'm afraid, is Drugs, Devices, Diagnostics Development Group. And I'm going to focus the rest of the discussion around this and my interest area of therapeutics. Next slide, please. Okay, so therapeutics translation has really changed, and I think Bill touched on this in the introductory slides. R&D has changed vastly. Companies now not expecting or intending to do large amounts of their own early research, but tending to want to use out-of-house skills, knowledge, and research, and move things forward into the clinic. So Pharma, of course, always worked with academia, but this relationship has changed very dramatically. And so rather than working just on early research and trying to effectively, I think, take it from that point into a license and a patent and clinic and moving it forward into the clinic, Pharma are starting to work with early researchers to try and bring forward projects, new targets forward into the clinic. Now, one of the earliest things that was found as Pharma moved this direction was that maybe some of them at least hoped for quality candidates found in academia that they could literally translate very rapidly into the clinic. Quality candidates are very difficult to find in this space, and that's for very good reason. in order to get candidates which go through into the clinic, you really need a mix of academic and industry skill sets in order to identify and optimize and produce candidates which stand a chance of going through to the clinic and being successful. So whilst some of the companies are now reaching early into the early academic space and setting up very clear initiatives to try and bring forward projects, Pfizer, CTI, and GSK, and I think most of the other big pharmas have one of these. They're working in very narrow spaces, but the University of California has a vast amount of research in a vast amount of areas. At the moment, of course, most of this early research is funded by the NIH on the left-hand side there on this slide, and we have a number of schemes which clearly support moving forward, probably from where you started to get a lead in this process and move forward. And the UCSF Catalyst actually covers both therapeutics, diagnostics, devices, and digital health. But it and the UCCAI schemes are really about moving forward from a sort of lead onwards point of view. Of course, there are other opportunities outside pharma collaborations in creating SBIR opportunities, working with investors and partners at this stage as well. But you can see that this scheme as a whole leaves some real challenges in the middle here at the point where, from target validation to lead optimization, where the risk that you'll get something useful out of it is still quite high, and potentially the value of the project is low, and obviously that increases as you go forward. So there's a real a gap here, and it's a gap that I think two speakers before me, Kanade and Anne, have alluded to as well. There's a significant challenge here, and it's a challenge that needs to be filled with skill sets from both academia and industry. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we're trying to do is that we now are setting up schemes to fill this space, to work with industry in order to cover this ground. Next slide, please. So the University of California Drug Discovery Alliance that we're starting to create, our objective here is to leverage the combined strengths and resources of the University of California and accelerate the translation of academic basic research discoveries into valuable therapies. And the key here is linking the core facilities that we already have. We do not intend to build a large drug discovery centre with everything in it. We already have a lot of very successful and excellent core facilities. And we're going to link these, and we already have a system called UC Core, which we have created, so that any academic researcher can access these core facilities, which within them might have opportunities to do screens or DMPK assays, for instance, and the expertise to support them. We're going to simplify contracting approaches as well, and here the clear intention is that it will be a lot easier for industry to negotiate contracts with the whole of the University of California as opposed to one of the University of California sites. I believe very strongly that industry has to be part of this process rather than a separate part. As we used to say, we used to put things over the wall to pharma. That isn't what we're aiming at here. Pharma and biotech need to be actively involved in this space. Then we're going to try and support early drug discovery, and again the key here is linking the academic expertise with the industry expertise. And we have many really key skill sets within the University of California, and we have links to many who outside the University of California. And the UCSF's Catalyst scheme does this very expertly, and the UCF Catalyst scheme has signed up experts from across the university, from across California, and brings them in to mentor the projects, and we expect to do this on a larger scale across the early drug discovery space. We will, of course, be giving pilot funding so that we can move projects and support them as they move forward. It's no good identifying data that they need to have and not being able to find funding from it because there isn't the other outside funding schemes. We will also be linking to infrastructure, and that will, of course, be not only those UC core facilities, but will also be the vast array of contract research organisations available to us. You really do not now have to build your own facilities and expertise in every aspect of this drug discovery space. They're out there and they're keen to work with us, and we're keen to work with them. So our aim is to develop very strong partnerships and collaborations with all of those members of the great life sciences ecosystem: pharma, biotech, contract research organisations, non-profit foundations and investors, in order to bring forward many more projects from the University of California. Obviously, the delivery from this is to develop robust target validation and progression data packages for UC targets and approaches, so that they are really brought together for moving forward together with partners. Next slide, please. So, the Drug Discovery Alliance, which is in its infancy at this point in time, is intended to absolutely include all aspects of partnerships with industry of all shapes and sizes. It is important that it does, because this has to be a collaborative process in terms of skill sets and expertise. So we see this as a very big opportunity for biotech and pharma partners to access and input into the wealth of early therapeutics research in the University of California space. And it's also an opportunity to work with a world-class institution to build high-value future portfolios in areas of high unmet need. And clearly, I will be looking to discuss this much further with anyone interested at the Bio Conference. Please contact me if you want to discuss it further. Thank you.
Thanks, Cathy. And now I want to turn this over to Joe Whalen from Horizon, who will give us the view from the other side of the table in specialty pharma that has grown out of a relationship at a university.
Great, thank you. This is Joe Whalen, SVP of Business Development and Alliance Management at Horizon Pharma. I'm going to provide, as Bill said, the specialty biotech perspective, I guess the industry perspective, or at least my thoughts on academic collaboration. So maybe if we could advance the next slide. Obviously, academic discoveries are critical to solving unmet medical needs to improve patient lives, and companies such as Horizon were created or by scientists and entrepreneurs that came out of the universities. In addition, we see what you all are doing in the tech transfer offices, that these new discoveries will become our future pipeline, and also potentially future cures for those of us that become patients. However, we only have resources to participate in the later stages of product development versus the early research that's going on at the university level, which is interesting to say. Horizon is a $5 billion company now, but I think in the the specialty biotech space, I guess we're considered kind of small to medium-sized biotech at this point in time. There's kind of two companies. There's companies that are focused on development, so a lot of their resources are doing later stage clinical trials, and there's companies that are more focused on commercializing one or two products or a handful of products, and getting to profitability. So I think because of this, where we can contribute until we get to a larger size where we can invest more in earlier stage opportunities, where we can contribute and support the work that you're all doing is through our participation in industry associations and entrepreneurship support. Next slide, please. So just a quick snapshot on Horizon. As mentioned, we're about a $5 billion market cap company. We did $300 million in sales last year. Expectations are towards $500 million in sales for 2015. We have 5 products we're commercializing. We're focused on unmet needs in orphan diseases, primary care, and specialty segments. Our future growth is predicated on in-licensing and additional products to grow the company. We have a pending acquisition of Hyperion Therapeutics, which will add another couple orphan products that we hope to close here in the second quarter. Next slide. So just to give everyone an idea of what it takes to bring a product to market, I thought it was worth sharing kind of the history of Horizon here. As mentioned, in 2005, the company was founded by one person or a couple people, Dr. Tidmarsh out of Stanford University. He recognized an unmet medical need in OA and started the company. Basically, the COX-2s, which had a significant promise for GI safer NSAIDs and gastric protection, experienced cardiovascular concerns, and that was the vision that George had of recognizing that need that those COX-2s were no longer providing a solution for, and he combined famotidine with ibuprofen, which was our lead initial product. In addition, from the early stage, after getting the product idea and concept to proof of concept, Tim Walbert, who had significant commercial experience both at Abbott, Searle, and Pharmacia, joined the company as CEO and was able to help raise $150 million before IPO. But it wasn't enough just to have one product for an IPO. We actually merged with another small company in Europe to get a second product, and it took actually having 2 products in development for the U.S. market to get enough interest from the street to raise $50 million IPO in 2011, which enabled us to get the commercial resources that we needed to start to launch our products. Since then, we've raised an additional, if you add up the totals here on the bottom, probably raised an additional $650 million to get to profitability on a adjusted EBITDA basis in 2014. So all in, from the founding of the company with 1 or 2 people in 2005 to profitability in 2014, took an investment of almost $1 billion to get to the 600 or so employees we are today and to profitability as a company. Next slide. So where we're trying to contribute and help, given that we recognize the important work that's being done at the universities, is really in a couple areas on the slide here. And this is kind of just an illustrative slide in the, I guess you call it the Chicago kind of ecosystem, since Horizon is U.S. headquarters is here in Chicago. So what we're playing is kind of in the upper right quadrant, in participation in bio, iBio, other industry associations such as the Chicago Life Science Consortium, in addition to Pharma, where our CEO has just been named a board member recently this week. So we're trying to influence policy, enable universities to get additional funding for discovery and for research to bring new products forward. I think the second place where we're participating is really around that bottom left quadrant in the entrepreneurship support. And I think where Ann said it's important to have feedback from the industry, and Cathy also alluded to the combination of skills needed from industry and from academics. This is where the employees of Horizon are volunteering in groups such as Chicago Innovation Mentors and Propel to share the learnings that we've had as we've grown up as a company to add value and commercial perspective to early stage ideas, and hopefully bring them forward in some form or fashion so that these young startups can survive and grow in a way that Horizon has as well. So I think, in conclusion, as kind of Bill mentioned, I think the old model has changed. Networking and working collaborations between industry and the universities is obviously critically important, which is why this upcoming Bio International meeting is such a great opportunity for folks to get together and share ideas. And again, where small, medium biotech can participate, companies like Horizon is really on participation in helping to identify unmet needs, working with you and collaborations and different entrepreneurship support kind of organizations, and giving of our time to help you move projects forward. So thanks for that, and I think we'll get into any questions that you all have.
Great. Thank you, Joe, and thank you to Ann and Cathy. I do want to point out that there's a great opportunity at the Bio International Convention. There is a Biotechnology Transfer Committee, of which I'm the chair, and so we'll be holding a meeting at that convention. So you are all welcome to participate in that committee and help guide the way in which Bio, as an association, supports the technology commercialization, technology transfer, translational research. We have a translational research forum as one of the tracks at the Bio convention, so please look at that if you're coming and participate in that particular track. So Roy, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we've got the one question is from Andrew. It says, could the speakers elaborate on managing the expectations of faculty PIs when commercial assessment and industry feedback says there's no commercial interest?
Ann, do you want to handle that one?
Sure. I think, well, it's always delicate, I think, because, the faculty are going to be they're the source of your intellectual property that you're dealing with in offices and tech transfer offices. And I think that that you really need to give them the bottom line and explain why. The other thing is, if we have feedback as to where the technology should be or what you would like it to be in order to be interesting, I think providing that to the faculty member is helpful. And even if you can take it on and establish maybe steps or milestones that they would meet. If for us, we do have money that we might be able to fund those next steps, but again, it does reside within the faculty members' purview as to whether excuse me, whether they want to go down that path or not. And we always try to strike a balance between and explain this is not a judgment on the science, it's a feedback on the commercial potential of what you have.
I would second that. I think we all know that also having a discussion with Pharma and being able to bring someone else to the table who can explain the challenges in moving a particular idea forward is always valuable, because as staff and as administrators, we often get challenged about what we challenged as to our knowledge on what is commercially valuable and not. So having the relationship with industry and being able to bring people who have experience, as Joe was explaining in commercializing technology, bringing them into our discussion and having them be part of that, planning on what is the next, what would be the appropriate commercialization path for a particular technology. And I've heard some people, even at UC, talking about strategic planning with faculty members about what might the intellectual property be, and how would we begin to position it as effectively as possible to be commercialized, starting even at the time of conceptualizing where research grants might be written in the future. So Roy, any other questions?
That's all the questions that we've received.
So so I have a question for Anne. With regard to your TSGTD, what's the level of funding that you provide annually in that program?
So it's the annual budget for it is about $350,000. Sorry about that. $350,000. Yeah, don't I wish?
I'm moving to Michigan.
Yeah, weather isn't that good. The grants though have ranged from even under $1,000 to over $150,000. And the money comes right now, as I said, from MSU itself. The foundation is interested, MSU Foundation is also interested in the success of that program, and so in cases where we're at the end of the fiscal year and we've used up our allocation, we have had the VP for Research and the foundation step up to the plate to help out and fund the next project.
And who starts this process? Is that something that comes from the Technology Transfer Office with ideas that they think are worthy of some translational research, or is it an open call to faculty?
It actually comes out of and starts from our office, because it is required that that the project have an invention disclosure. The project has already gone through a first stage commercial assessment by our office, and we have some identified or identifiable intellectual property. So a faculty member could come to us and say, yeah, I want to get this money, but unless they meet the bar, and our technology managers are behind that project too, it's just not going to go forward for submission. We work very closely with the chair of the review committee, and he participates in the early discussions on suitability of a project for funding, and so we have a lot of guidance from the chair, even though the chair is not in any sort of decision-making mode for funding.
Great, thanks. Joe, from your perspective, sitting on the industry side, what do you see as the biggest challenge for us in the university community in being able to really deliver on our aspirations to advance technology and to get more into the translational research space?
I think so. Obviously, a good question. I think that. I think it was Cathy's slide with the kind of intersection of risk reward between kind of industry and the universities, and getting to a proof of concept kind of level and incubating things to a proof of concept, because different projects might have a different point or different investment to get there. I think that's the biggest challenge. So even before I was at Horizon, I was at Baxter Healthcare. And we saw a lot of opportunities from universities, and it was always tough for us to take a look at them until they had gotten, through some proof of concept. And there very much did seem to be a gap in funding from kind of the early stage to kind of the proof of concept level of incubation.
Thanks.
We have two more questions
Cathy,
from the audience.
What's the source of? Oh, sorry. Okay, great.
Yeah, just real quick. So one says, how does one manage expectations of pharma when university governance structures do not always align with pharma models?
Cathy, would you like to try that one, having been on both sides of the fence?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the challenge of working in this sort of middle space, really. I think, this is a two-sided discussion, managing both academic expectations and understanding of what it takes to move a compound or a target project forward into the clinic, and looking at it the other way from a pharma point of view, the amount of investment that pharma is going to have to put into anything in order to move it forward to the clinic is vast. I think for me the key is making sure that both sides of this discussion actually understand each other's perspectives. And I think, there is a challenge with, both sides, looking at it from both sides. But in the end, in order to move things forward, we need to work together and meet in the middle. And so we have to appreciate each side of the discussion. I genuinely think, relating to the first question, really, that we need to, both sides of that discussion need to fully understand the issues involved. It is a very common thing that an academic researcher will believe that they have the next best cure for cancer or something without understanding anywhere near the costs for moving it forward. And so, and consequently, if they understood the costs and the challenges of moving it forward, and the chances, of course, of getting any one particular project into the clinic, for instance, that relationship. So I think it is all about education and talking and perhaps meeting in the middle.
One last question, Joe. Roy?
Yes, so the last question will be, how much money does the Tech Transfer Office have available per year for market intelligence to see trends emerging?
Well, I'm in the middle of those sort of discussions right now as our subscriptions to various tools are coming up at the end of the year, and I would have to say way too little. It's some of the best tools are quite expensive, and it's generally, that would be a sizable chunk of most tech transfer offices, marketing budgets. So, we are really quite challenged, I think, in being able to afford some of the tools that are out there. And those prices seem to be going up significantly every year. The sorts of deals we might have been able to strike 5 or 10 years ago are no longer available, given sort of the change in the business structures of some of the people that provided that information in the past. So it is a real challenge for us to get access to the tools that perhaps Pharma might access on a regular basis, because that's a relatively small cost on their overall cost of doing research and development.
And I agree with Bill on that. One of the challenges that we face at Michigan State is looking at the makeup of our portfolio and the tools that are available. We have not found one or even two tools that will cover the breadth of what we manage, and some of the, if most of our work was in biotech and pharma, it would be much easier than in the ag and engineering side. We have a lot of technologies in those spaces, and it's a little more challenging.
So quick follow-up question. This will be it. Will be they're asking for a ballpark. If anybody wants to throw out a ballpark figure for that.
I suspect that most offices around the University of California system probably have maybe between $5,000 and $10,000 available to spend on software tools, things like MedTrack or Recap or Inography, PatentSnap. There's a slew of things that we could possibly use, but we probably have no more than, most campuses have around 5, and very few have more than $10,000 to spend on those sorts of subscriptions.
Yeah, I agree. It's about 10, or be about an average, if that.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and thank the panel. Again, this is Roy Zwahlen from Bio. Thank the panelists for their excellent presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. For a quick note here, you'll see on your screen for the universities and nonprofit research institutes, we're actually doing a $100 discount for convention attendance if you do the following survey. And with that, we will hopefully see you all in Philadelphia. Thank you very much.